Okay, this video is going to be on how to visually construct a data set using Photoshop and then export it. So the first step is to download all the images that you want to use, and that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm downloading the 628 block. So I'm putting them all into 628. Okay, I got all the images downloaded. They're in the 628 block. And I put them all into one folder, and I made a copy so I could show off one of the tools that I made. So in this folder is images and labels, and for this particular tool it has to be set up like this. So you're going to take the tool, which can be found under helpers, and then BunchlessImageHelper. Let me just drag it in. Got too many files open. Okay. Alright, so I added it to the folder. And the structure has to look like this. It has to be images and then labels with images in the images and then labels in the labels. I don't think there can be subdirectories. And what this is going to do is you can move unlabeled images out or unlabeled images that don't have any bunches. So the first one is just images that don't have any text files associated to them. And the second one is images that have a text file with them, but it's empty. So I'll just move two out. And it moves them into bunchless images and bunchless labels. So you can see these labels are all empty. So that can help you manage your data set. You can see how many images are empty. Okay, next what we're going to do is open the document of whatever block that you want to be creating your data set out of. And we're going to go ahead and section it off, and then we're going to export the files. So to get started, I use a full screen because that can make it a little bit easier, and you can press T to rotate and then click and drag just to make it a little bit easier to see the block. And then we can press Z to zoom in, Z and then drag. And what we're going to do is we're going to start deleting lines here so that we can segment off sections, which can be useful if you want to make sure that the bunches in one block or one test or train or validation set are not in another block. So to do that, bear with you while I remember, we should hit V. Yeah, V to use the select tool, the move tool. Let me see what it's called. It's called the move tool. And then we can hit shift and drag, and it's going to select layers. So we'll just drag a line, and that should select some layers in your layers panel over here. And if we scroll down, it selected all of them. Alright, we're going to select one layer, and we're going to click Control, and then actually we're going to right click and click on a layer. And then we're going to do this. We're going to hit Alt or Shift, drag. And we'll see if it's selected all the layers. Okay, good. We got more layers selected. I think it worked properly that time. So we can see we have a bunch of layers selected. And what we're going to do is probably just delete them. We're going to hit the delete key. And now we have a section walled off. So this can be our... We'll keep it simple. We'll just have a validation set and a training set. Okay, so next what we're going to do is export these images. And these images that we're exporting actually aren't the images we want to use, but they have the names of the images that we want to use. So this can make it much easier to construct your data set. So just as before, we're going to hit V and then hold Shift, and we're going to select all the images that we want to select, including the ones at the top. There we go. That's better. Okay, and then we'll just do a quick test to see. It looks like we got them all selected. Yeah, looking good. Okay, let me remember how to do this. We're going to group the layers to start with. So we're going to hit Control and G, and now we've put them in this group here. So all the images are in this folder. Makes it a little bit easier to manipulate them. This is how you can change the opacity too. So on this group, I'll just hit the number 1 key. We'll actually go 8. And so now the opacity is 80%. So that's how you can sort of manipulate a large block at a time. And then we're going to hit 0 just to set that back. And then I'm going to remember how to export them. Let's just right click. And we're going to go, let's go export as. I think that was it. Now we selected the group. That's not going to work. So let's go and click in the group. We'll select the first item in the group. And we'll scroll all the way down. A lot of images. There we go. We'll find the last one. We'll hit Shift, click on the last one. Now they're all selected. We'll right click and we will export as. And we'll give it a second because there's a lot of images. Okay. And we could change the size if we wanted to. We're not actually interested in the images themselves. We're more interested in the names. This is just the easiest way to get the names. And we'll hit export. And I think this is going to take a while, so I'm going to cut the video here. And we'll start up again when it's finished saving. Okay. So I'm going to select 628 export. This is where I'm saving the files. And I'll just create a new file. And I'll call this my training set. And that should be good. We'll hit select folder. And then I'll wait for all of this to save. Okay, that finished up. So we're going to do this one more time for our validation set. So just to deselect whichever layer you have selected, just Control right click on a layer and just click it, and that'll select that layer. And then you can hit V to go to your move tool, and then we'll hit Shift and we'll drag a selection on our validation set. And then we'll double check on the layers panel to see if it's been selected. And it looks good. So in our case, it's going to be everything that's left over because we selected all of this before. So we can group this if we wanted to, but I don't think we have to. So I'll just right click it and we're going to go export as. Okay. Great. We'll give that one more shot. Okay, cool. I'm guessing this is because exporting before used up all of my memory. So it's sitting at 97% and Photoshop is taking up 20 gigabytes of RAM. So I'm going to solve this problem and I'll get back to you. Okay, I closed and reopened Photoshop, so we're going to give it a shot, see how it works. Hit T to rotate, get it back to where it was, press Z, and then click and drag to zoom in. And we're going to hit V to go to our move tool, hit Shift, and we'll select the layers we want to select. We'll double check that they are selected. Looks like we have one layer there, that's a little bit concerning. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control, right click, click on a layer. Now this one's selected, and it's in the group that we want to select. And then we'll hit Shift and select. And now we should have just the layers that we actually want to keep. And one more. Which layer is this? So what you can do to see just one layer is hit Alt and then click on the eyeball. And then we'll have to wait because there's a lot of layers. and it's that layer. And we'll hit Alt and click again, and it should bring them all back. So I think that's okay. It is in our group 1. Oh, it's not. Okay. I think everything's fine. We're going to hit Shift, click, drag. We'll make sure that we get just the ones that we want. Check our selections. Still got that one, but it should be fine. Okay, and then we're going to hit right click, and we're going to export as, and we'll hope it doesn't fail. Okay, this looks better. If you want to just go faster, I think we could change these properties. I'm not going to, but we don't need the actual image itself, we just need the name. So we're going to hit export. I'm going to go into my export folder, and I'll make a new folder. And this one is our validation set. Let's go validation, and we'll select the folder. And it should write all the files to that folder. Okay, I think it's finished. We'll just double check that they're there. These are our train images and our validation images. Okay, so now we have our train and validation images. But these are the images from the Photoshop file, and they've been altered, so we can't really use them anymore. But they do have the names of the images that we want to use. And that's how we're going to pull out the images that we want. So we're going to go to the repo, and we're going to helpers, and we're going to go to build dataset from Photoshop, export. And we're going to run this, and we're going to pick the name of our dataset, which I guess we'll do train first. We'll click train, it adds it there, and then we'll create a name for the dataset. And I'm just going to keep it the way that it is. And we'll hit start. Okay, first step. It's a bit of a confusing process. We're going to select folder number 1, which contains the names. So that's this folder here. It's got all the names of the images that we actually want to keep. So I'll just copy that here, and we'll select it. And then we got folder 2. This is select the folder that contains the images and labels. So this has the actual images and labels that you want to be putting into your dataset. And I have it right here. We downloaded all these from the drive, and I combined them into one. So this is the folder that we want. It's got all the actual images, all the actual labels. So I'll take this, put it here, and select. And finally, we want to pick the location it needs to be saved to. So I'm going to put it, I'll put it here in this export folder. And I'll just make a new, I actually don't have to make a new folder, I think it's going to do it for me. So I'll just select this one. Okay, you can see it's working. Sure hope everything goes well. Okay, so it's still running, but it looks like it's doing its job. Okay, there we go. And so what that did is it grabbed all the images and labels and put in our train folder. But it hasn't done the test folder yet. Unfortunately, we have to run it a second time to get the other folder. So it's going to be the same process, but this time we're going to select our validation set. So we'll just click validation. I'll leave the name the same. If you leave it the same, it'll go into that folder and paste it, which is what we want. So make sure that the names are going to be the same. And we'll hit start. And we'll do it one more time. We'll select the folder that contains all the names. So that's this one here, a validation folder. And select. And then we want all of our all the actual images, which is right here. So maybe one more time just to make sure it's clear. This folder contains all of the real images, they're unmodified, and all the real labels that go with the images. And we're going to select this folder. And then finally the output folder. We'll have to make it the same if we want to merge the folders. So that's going to be this folder here. So actually we don't want to be in the folder, we should be at the root. And it should go into this folder and then paste the rest. Okay. And it looks like everything's going well. And it is finished. Okay, so now we have our train and our validation. And we have our labels split into train and validation. And if you wanted to go one more time, you could do a testing set in the same manner. And from there, we can take this data set. We'll have to create a YAML file for it, and then we can run it. Okay, next we're going to train our data set. So we have our data set built, and we're going to jump into, this is tutorial, Jupyter Notebook, and it's a good way to learn how to use the program. And I just copied some lines out of it for my quick use here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this line, although we're not actually going to run it in the notebook, because if we run it in the notebook, it doesn't give us any feedback until the absolute end. So what we got here is we got train.py, we got the image size, which is going to keep default. We've got the batch size, 8's what my GPU can handle. Got 200 epochs. We have the YAML file, so we'll have to change that. Let's just scroll up. We'll go to YOLO v5 master and data and dataset. You can have whatever name you want, it just has to be the same. So go into here, we want to find the path to the images folder. So let's find that. We've got our dataset here. I'll just copy it. This is the path that we want to send it to. So we will grab this path and we'll paste it in here. I'll make sure the characters aren't escaped. And we should add images to the end. And then I made this mistake last time because I was testing things out. The train should point to the train folder. So right inside the images folder is the train folder. So we go images, train and validation. That's what should go here. But mine are backwards. So make sure that validation is in validation. That train is in train. Okay, we can comment out the test case or the test folder because we're not using it right now. And then we have the number of classes. That's 1 because there's one bunch. And the name of the class is a bunch. So that should be fine. I'll hit save. And we'll jump back to here. And then we're going to use the small weights. I forgot what the caching thing does. I have to look that up. Maybe I should show how to look it up. If you go to train, and you scroll all the way down, you can find where all the parameters are, and it gives you a bit of info about them. So we're going to find cache. Cache. Okay, so caches them into RAM. Excellent. Okay, and we're going to call it tutorial. So I'm going to copy this line, and we're going to just find the train.py script. It's right here. And we'll just run that from the command line. Okay, everything looks pretty good. Hit enter. Hit enter again. Okay, there we go. And it looks like it's running. So now it's caching the images. It found 657. That's good news because I think that's how many that we have. I'll just jump here, have a look. 657. Perfect. Once it finishes caching, it should start going. Although I have had issues with my page file. The page file is getting too big, even though it's set to automatically expand. And there is enough space on the hard drive. It just gets to 5 gigabytes and then it just dies. That's enough. But hopefully we won't run into that problem. Okay, now it's going to cache the validation images. Should take less time because there's less of them. And once we start seeing the epochs, we'll know that everything's fine. Okay, that's good news. So the time it takes is... which value was it? This one here. And that can give you a rough estimate of how long the whole thing is going to take. Epochs typically take about the same size in my experience, or the same amount of time, I guess. Okay, looking good. Okay, so it looks like the training just finished. It took 1.3 hours, I guess, and interestingly, the early stopping patients actually triggered, which I don't think has happened before. So let's have a look at the results. So to find them, we should scroll to our runs folder and train, and it should be tutorial 2. Let's open this in window. And this is where all the results are. You can also use weights and biases. I think Josh is going to make a section on how to use weights and biases. That's interesting. This F1 curve is like flat. It's like dead. Huh, that's weird. Weird results. Like, why did this suck so much? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, to try and figure out our problem, I'm going to try a few things. The first thing I tried was just to make sure that the images are being, like, they're not messed up or something. So I just loaded one of the images in there and one of the text files into makesense.ai. I should make a tutorial on how to use this. And it looks like they're fine. So I'm assuming that the data is okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to run the model on all of the images and see what it looks like. We'll find out exactly what it's doing. So I'm going to want to run inference on it. I have a script for that. This run on batch. This notebook. Okay. And we can do it in the notebook. So I'll run the setup. And looks like it's fine. It found my GPU. And then we're going to find... Okay, we're just going to go into the master folder. And then we're going to detect. So first we need the weights. So we can find the weights in our run. So go train, tutorial 2, weights. I'll use the last ones. I'm not sure which one's better to use, but I typically use the last one. And we'll copy the path. And we'll paste it in here. Yeah, I'm going to copy the absolute path just to make sure. Okay, we'll keep the image size the same as what we trained. We'll leave the confidence the same. And then we'll have to find the images that we want to use. And I have them right here, 628, all images. And we'll just jump into the block. Okay, and we'll name it debug test. Should be fine. Okay, let's give it a run. It'll usually fail in the first 5 seconds if it's going to fail. Alright, let's have a look at how it's doing. So detect and debug test. So these images don't have bunches in them, so I guess we'll have to wait a bit, but we'll have a look anyway. They might have false positives. There we go. So we'll just scroll through. It's a few false positives. Okay, here we go. Alright, so it's doing well on the bunches that it's seen before. This is all 100% accurate, and it probably should be. My guess is that those metrics are built based on the validation set. And it's possible that they were good before because their validation set was mixed up with their testing set. But now that they're actually separate, the model shows its true sort of value. And it kind of sucks. Alright, let's have a look at the test set. Alright, we're going to run that again, but this time we're going to use in our data set, we'll go to images, and we're going to use the validation images. And we'll see what kind of result this gives us that might give us a clue as to what's going on. So the same weights, but this time we're going to change the folder for the images. And I deleted the old one so we can just call it debug test again. Okay. Looks fine. We'll hit run. And we'll have a look. Okay, a lot of blank images. Oh, okay, never mind. I was just wondering, like, were there actually any bunches in the validation set? Maybe I selected a chunk that actually just hadn't have any bunches. But there's bunches here, and it's doing reasonably well. Actually, this is quite good, as far as I can tell. Of course, it is in the validation set, so that's going to be like the model has seen the validation set before, so it's not the perfect test. That's why I should have made a test block. That would have been good. You know what I'm thinking though? Maybe there's not enough bunches in the validation set. Maybe it's mostly not bunches. Yeah, I'm beginning to think that that's the problem here. How many files are in there? Why are there 400 items? It's like more than 400. What did I what did I put in this? Okay, I went through the images again, and it looks like there's just not enough bunches. That seems to be the problem. I think there are only a couple images that have bunches in them. And this validation set is kind of small. It's like 10%. So given that it's only 10% and there's no bunches in it, I think that shows us the problem. So let's see, that's almost all of them. So there, I think there's actually no bunches in this set. Yep. Okay. Well, we solved the mystery. So I hope this was helpful. Yeah, it's like an overview of what I would do to build a data set, and then how to train the data set, and then how to review the results and sort of debug them to see if I get weird results, how do I see what's going on? All right, I hope it was good. See ya.